What's it like being a black conservative in America?
Welcome to the Be Wise Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Wright, where we discuss politics, entertainment, sports, and whatever else comes to my brain. I'm really, really excited to do this show because one of my not so favorite people, Mr. Stephen A. Smith, he interviewed one of my all-time favorite people, Miss Candace Owens. And I encourage you, after you finish watching my show, that you run over to the Stephen A. Smith show and watch that interview in full. So it was really a good interview. It was just too short, but he said that she promised that she would actually come back and do a longer interview with him. I guess she had some limits on time. But that's going to take me to my Igniter. But before we talk about my Igniter, I want to encourage you guys to support the channel, like and subscribe, and please share it with your friends. And whether you like me or like my content or not, share it anyway, because good publicity, bad publicity, it's all publicity, and it helps our channel grow. So thank you so much for that. So I do want to talk about my Igniter, and here we go. So as you know, the reason I'm so excited about this Stephen A. Smith and Candace Owens podcast is because we are rarely, when I say we, I mean the public en masse, content creators en masse. We usually have people on our show that we agree with. We have better dialogue with people we agree with because we can laugh, we can chuckle, we can joke, we can tease the other side. You know, usually when you watch MSNBC, they have other liberal, guests. Sometimes you watch Fox News, they have other conservative guests, but it's really good when you take a Stephen A. Smith who comes from he comes from the liberal side. He votes Democrat, but he has someone like Candace Owens on his show. I've been begging some of the more liberal, more mainstream media to get conservative people on their show. That's been really, really important that they do that. That way, people who are on the conservative side can hear more liberal thought, and people who are on the liberal side can hear more conservative thought. And it just doesn't happen enough. And that's why I wanted to start the show about that, because my TikTok channel, my YouTube channel, it's all conservative thought. But even on Facebook, I have a ton of liberal, left-wing Democrat friends who don't want to hear what I have to say. So I had to recreate and build a conservative following on TikTok. And what happens when people who don't agree with me see my content? They immediately go scurrying, call me names, unfollow me, tell me they don't agree, get mad at me, go in my inbox, call me names again. And it's just kind of like, wash, rinse, cycle, repeat, everything all over again. But I don't mind, because one thing I can tell you is that in order to speak the language that I speak, talk about the things I talk about, I have to be bold in it. I have to be brave, understanding that I'm going to alienate some people. People who thought one way about me are going to go scurrying in the other direction. I know what they're probably saying when I can't hear them amongst other people. And my favorite is, I know you're doing this for clicks. They're not giving me enough credit that I'm not doing it for clicks. I'm doing it because I believe in what I'm saying. Because you are supposed to think a certain way, vote a certain way, support things a certain way, just because of the color of your skin. I had a funny TikTok last night. I was recapping Donald Trump's session to Congress, and I was so happy about it. I was enthusiastic. I was excited because it was such a good speech. such a good address. And some guy jumps on my comments and go unfollowing. I said, all right, this is not an airport. You don't have to announce your arrivals and departures. Just go. But my thought was, why would you unfollow me? Because you are mad or you don't agree with my politics. Listen to it, scroll past it, because I'm going to say something in the future or tomorrow or another day that you may like. I find that with people that I listen to all the time on podcast, on TikTok. Like, I may disagree with 60 to 80% of the things they say or the content that they create. But then they say something that resonates with me. And I go, I do like that. And I'll tell them in the comments, hey, I usually disagree with you, but that was on point. I really agree with you. But some people don't have the tolerance or the patience to even stick around for a smidget because it's coming from my mouth. Because I'm a sellout or I don't think like them. And that's just craziness. How are you going to learn something or see another point of view if you're so quick to run in another direction? So kudos to Stephen A. Smith. I don't always agree with Stephen A. Smith. I don't know what he's doing politically right now. And remember, I said a minute ago that people will tell me in my comments, well, if this is what you do for clicks and money, then do you. And then I'm looking at Stephen A. Smith and his transformation and his transition from going left-leaning, liberal-leaning, to moving to being a centrist, to sometimes even being conservative, if you will. I don't know what's going on, but I don't want to accuse him of doing it for clicks and money because I don't like when it's done to me. But I want people to stop saying that I'm doing this for clicks or because right now, even on YouTube, I have less than 200 followers or subscribers. If I was doing this for clicks, I would just quit, because if I was trying to monetize or do this for money, I would have quit by now, because I have almost 200 videos and I still haven't reached 200. And I get tired of watching all the YouTube videos on how to get more subscribers. I want this to happen organically. I want people to find me organically. So anyway, I digress. I did want to say that's my igniter. I don't do this for clicks. I don't do this for subscription so you can subscribe to me. I do it because I'm passionate about it. I believe in what I'm saying. So thank you for listening to The Igniter. All right, let's get into the show. So the big question is, what is it like to be a Black conservative? And that was one of the questions that Stephen A. asked Candace Owens. And I love the way she answered it. We're going to go through a few excerpts from the interview, some clips, and then I'll talk about them on the other side. Ladies and gentlemen, Candace Owens.
What's it like being a Black conservative in America? Nobody better ask this question than you.
Honestly, it's a hell of a lot easier than it was when I first got into this back in 2015, because that was the first time they saw Trump, and people just could not see past how could this possibly happen. And I think the media had a stronger hold on people's minds then than it does now. Now we've seen the explosion of independent media. People are able to get their voices out outside of the New York Times and CNN and Fox News, and that's helped tremendously to defeat all of these media caricatures that are being created. But I find it now, it's pioneering, to put it in a nice way. And I think it's the most rewarding thing ever when what I have found is that if you just stand for truth, even in the beginning when it's really hard and people say terrible things about you, and I've been called everything you could possibly imagine, then there's that moment, even if it takes years, where they do come back and they say you were right, particularly about BLM. I mean, I was hitting the drum about the finances so early, and I'm going, I'm not saying that you don't have feelings about this thing, but I am telling you something else is going on. And this is going to harm the Black community in the end. This money is just going to be zapped out of communities, and communities are going to be destroyed. And then when that was proven right, it was so refreshing to hear people say, yeah, we kind of hated her for a really long time. We're kind of saying this for a really long time. And then, the fraud of Patrice Cullors and what they were doing with the money. And so my brain just works differently. I am different and I'm happy being different. I don't want to be the same, but I also do respect, I think I've learned in the process as well, is to just respect where people are at. You know, my sisters did not like where I was at when I started
How many
speaking in the
sisters
way
do you
that I was
have?
speaking.
How many?
So, yeah, kudos. I mean, she nailed it. Being a Black conservative, it's easier than it used to be, because before social media, before platforms like TikTok and X, we felt alone out there because we were in our bubble. And if you said something outside that bubble, only your circle of influence could hear you say it, you know? So she's right. It is a lot easier. We realize that we have an alliance. We have people out there who are with us, and they give us hand claps and kudos and pats on the back and go, you do you. And it's pretty awesome. I do want to point out that Candace Owens, as she was ascending to where she is now, she has like almost 4 million followers on YouTube. But I wrote down some notes. She was one of the first ones to point out the BLM finances and how that was fraudulent and how it was going to hurt the Black community. And it was a money grab. And then she was one of the first to point out the George Floyd situation and the fentanyl and the, not dying really at the hands of Derek Chauvin, who she believes will be released from prison really soon. She supported Kanye West when he was at his lowest point and he lost his contract with Adidas. She supported him. She wore the White Lives Matter t-shirt with Kanye West. She comes out against Black culture and how Black culture is something that really shouldn't be applauded, because sometimes as a culture, we tend to defend anyone and everyone if they're Black, including criminals. And we, uplift celebrities and create icons out of them as if they're gods. She came out against Zelensky while Joe Biden was sending money to Ukraine and propping up Zelensky as this great world leader, and America started waving Ukrainian flags. There were more Ukrainian flags on houses than there was USA flags. How she comes out against feminism. You're gonna see all that, but she's such a brave and proud woman who stands on business. She doesn't run from it. She doesn't hide. So, yeah, kudos to her for that. And yeah. So here she is talking about, what was it?
How do you feel? How do you gauge what's the right thing to do and what's not the right thing to do?
Yeah, so here she's talking about dealing with Blacks when we have to debate people in our own race about issues and politics and the Black community.
For me, the discussion and polite discussion, it doesn't work. I have found that. You can go back and watch me on stage with T.I. and Killer Mike, and it doesn't work with the Black community. And I have a theory on this, and I think partially it's because we have this instance of father absence, but there's a lot of attitudes.
Mm-hmm.
And if you try to come politely, you're just going to get disrespected. And so in terms of the White Lives Matter shirt, first off, Kanye, that's how he communicates. He communicates with art. That's like, this was Kanye's thing that I was stepping into, but I understood what he was saying there, because he is someone that does not no one puts Kanye in the corner. No one tells Kanye what he has to be. And so when you start saying, oh, I'm going to superimpose you just being a Black victim onto someone like Kanye West, and he hated when white people would come up to him and say Black Lives Matter. Mm-hmm. So he's like, okay, you want to patronize me? Oh, let me patronize you. Your life matters too, right? Okay. Oh yeah, like white lives matter too. Mm-hmm. And I want you to know that white lives matter. Your life matters. He never liked that, the patronization of it. And mm-hmm. So I felt the same way. And we communicate differently. I usually am using more bombastic words, but that moment to me, especially as someone who grew up and really Kanye's music kind of gave me the courage to be myself, to not have to be an archetype of what a Black woman should be. It was a moment for me that I reflect on very fondly. And yeah, it broke the internet, and it started a lot of conversations. But imagine if Black people were just like, yeah, every time I saw a white person, right, I'm with you. Your white life matters. It's just, there's something about it I just don't like.
Yes. So what she was saying is when we as Black people, when we actually decide or make a conscious decision to debate other Black people about being conservative or being liberal, you can't do it softly. You have to be strong in your stance. You have to be unapologetic, and because they will eat you alive. I've seen it. If you ever watch The Breakfast Club with, Charlemagne the God, or you ever watch any Black radio show, they come at you hard. So if you're weak in your stance, or you flip flop, or you don't really believe in what you're saying, you're just going to get eaten. So I like the way she said she comes strong. I like the way she said that Kanye West has encouraged her and gave her the power to feel like that she can just be herself and be authentic. And that's a great thing. So kudos to her, for that. So yeah. So what else we got? We got her talking about feminism, and feminism is one that I've struggled with because um, I'm the only male in my house. So I have a wife. Of course, I have 3 daughters. I'm trying to teach them without teaching them, but be an example, making sure they watch the right content, sharing the right content. That you can, you don't have to be a feminist, or you don't have to be anti-man in order to be a strong woman, so to speak. If you feel that you want to be, I don't know, some people would use the word subservient to any cause, you can do that without necessarily being weak. So when some people say, I don't believe in feminism, they immediately go to, you're being misogynistic. And that's just not always the case, because feminism can actually be dangerous too. It can hurt more than it can help in some circles and in some circumstances, including the family. There's sometimes, and many times, probably most times, where a patriarchal society has been more beneficial to us as a people. And she talks about that on this clip right here. Take a listen.
We just need to destroy the feminist movement. It's just so toxic. And I think that on the heels of Kamala's loss and, women are unhappy because they're being told to compete with men. We are not like men. We are not built like men biologically, mentally, physically. We are just not men. And the idea that to be equal in society, I have to have the same aspirations as a man is going to be something that makes women chronically unhappy, which is what we're dealing with today. And learning the real history of feminism, and I'm mimicking Gloria Steinem, a famed photo of her, who was actually a CIA operative, will wake people up to the fact that these decisions that are being told to you of like, yes, the feminist movement was amazing, was the CIA looking for a way to tax households 2 ways. And it has not led to the enriching of the household. It has not led to the enriching of our life experiences. And the biggest joys in my life are being able to be at home with my children and my husband. And I'm just tired of being told that makes me somehow backwards.
Right. So I remember for a long time, my wife was a stay-at-home mom for probably 9 years, 8 or 9 years. She had some part-time gigs here and there, making some side money, some pocket change, but it wasn't really enough to, support us as a family. I've been the primary breadwinner. And of course, I work in an industry where it's dominated by women. The real estate industry, it's pretty much dominated by women. And these women are not only in the real estate space where they're selling, they're also loan originators, insurance salesmen, all groups. So when I would take my wife in these circles, whether it was a mixer or a party or something like that, the question always came up, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? And my wife always just basically, oh, I'm a stay-at-home mom. And she was around these people that were teachers, or, like I said, real estate agents, or, mortgage brokers or whatever. And it almost seemed like she had to cower a little bit and not say it proudly that, hey, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I'm a housewife. I'm my husband's wife. I'm my husband's girlfriend, as Dr. Laura Schlesinger says. There was something that's, I guess, lacked power in some circles. And I told her, I said, what you do is extremely important. So, you should not have to feel that you're any less than any of these women that decide they want to be professionals. They decide they want to drop their children off at daycare for 30 to 40 hours a week. And listen, if that's your life choice, that's fine. But a woman who decides to be a caretaker of their home and a stay-at-home mom should not be looked at any less than someone who decides that they want to be a professional woman. So that was key about the feminism, because I think that it has, in many circumstances, it's kind of harmed our family dynamic in America. So here she is talking about the next clip is about Black culture and how we tend to sometimes glorify criminals and rappers and people who gangbang, and we marginalize people who have degrees or Supreme Court justices or people who are doing great things because they're quote unquote a sellout because they might support someone like a Donald Trump. So it's really important that in our Black culture, guys like me, guys like Candace, guys like the Officer Tatum, we need to come on social media and go, no, that's hood rat. That's ghetto. That is not what we should be supporting. Somebody told me one time, well, we're sick people. No, we can't accept that as an excuse anymore. So here's Candace talking about Black culture.
When you take these positions, does it enter your mind? I don't want to use the word vitriol because I think that's a bit too strong and that's unfair to you, and I don't want to do that. But when you consider the fact that so many people in the Black community have voted Democratic since the civil rights legislation in 1964. Remember what Lyndon B. Johnson said, that, you pass this legislation and we'll have the Negroes vote for us for the next 200 years. Remember that statement? I know, I remember that statement. I'm wondering, because of your knowledge of politics, your obvious knowledge of the issues, when you speak on these things and you take positions about, you take such positions, particularly if it's antithetical or the antithesis of what the Black community will point to, do you think about it and do so on purpose because, dare I say, you're disgusted with us as a community for being hoodwinked by the Democratic Party in your eyes? Is that possible?
So that's a very good question. And disgusted would not be the right term for it. Frustrated, yes, and constantly trying to give people the facts so that they understand that Lyndon Baines Johnson was an avowed racist and he hated us, and yet we are doing everything that he wanted us to do. We are reacting emotionally and not rationally. We seem to be a stereotype of irrationality, actually. All we have to do is make them feel something and they won't react. And I want to be clear, it's not just Black Americans. The Me Too movement was another manifestation of that. That's why I'm doing this Harvey Weinstein series. But what really does upset me about the Black community is that the manner in which we defend criminals, you will not find this in any other community. Okay. So white person gets shot, killed, unarmed. They're not coming out. White people are not coming out and burning down their own neighborhoods, right? They're going to be like,
Did you see the Black community attack me for going off about OJ being celebrated? Did you see that?
Yeah. They've conditioned us to actually defend the worst in our communities. They just will let it go. You think Chinese people are going to run outside if they're like, well, listen, this guy was high on fentanyl. He got into a brush up with police officers and he died. Chinese people will be like, especially Asian moms are just dead serious. They'd be like, you idiot, good for you. So you're an embarrassment. Never come home. This is how Asian women are. They have a standard. You think Jewish people are coming outside and gonna, rally around? No. They all know that they think of that as like a natural process. We don't want to associate with that. And we have the exact opposite mindset. And when I say the exact opposite, I mean also the reverse of that being that the most educated and the most accomplished people in our community, in terms of their intellect, we reject. How can we ever get ahead, right? Oh, Condoleezza Rice. No, she's a traitor. She's an Uncle Tom. Clarence Thomas, Supreme Court Justice, he's a traitor. He's an Uncle Tom. But Dr. Ben Carson, a literal brain surgeon. Black people will call him stupid. It's crazy. So there's no way Black America can get ahead with that backwards mindset where you put George Floyd on a T-shirt and you denigrate and disrespect someone like Clarence Thomas. I'm just not with it.
Facts. And that's what I say. And when I say that, the hate and vitriol that I get, people, bro, that's a low blow and I can't believe that. And man, let's be honest. You just wanted someone in jail. You don't You wanted Derek Chauvin in jail. You saw the chokehold. You immediately went to, he deserved life in prison. Burning down your neighborhoods. And like she said, people that are smart, Condoleezza Rice, she's a sellout. Ben Carson, he's a sellout. Come on, man. I hear it all the time. Clarence Thomas, he's a sellout. He doesn't like his own people. He has self-hate. Really? Come on. You hate yourself. That's what they say. You hate yourself and you hate your people. Here's Candace Owens talking about the perceived self-hate. It's crazy.
No, I am a Trump supporter, but I'm not just a Trump supporter.
Understood.
And I think in the beginning, they kind of made it seem like I was always angry, always talking bad about Black people, which is like any person that listens to my podcast, white people get it 10 times worse, but the media will only pluck a clip when I'm speaking about a Black issue. And then it's, oh, there she is again saying stuff about Black people. They did a very good job of conditioning, I would say, the public just via the mainstream media and flashy headlines to think that I had, like, they called me like a self-hating Black person.
Right.
It was completely wild. It was out of control.
Well, listen, this is the thing, and this is the thing that gets me in trouble.
Yeah, so that's what they say. They be like, brother, you lost. You lost. You need to find yourself. You've been out the hood too long. That is the craziest piece of trash I literally have ever heard. It's just nuts. So she talked about politics a little bit, and this discussion about Zelensky visiting the White House, Putin. So because I'm going to tell you, Candace Owens is not one-dimensional. She's two-dimensional, three-dimensional, four-dimensional, and she can talk about race and politics, and she can talk about geopolitical issues, worldviews, the whole nine. But she's tampering down her politics a little bit. She's talking about some things that's going on in Hollywood, the Diddy issues, Harvey Weinstein, Justin Baldini, all those, Blake Lively. So she gets into other stuff as well. But here's kind of why that she's tampering down her political talk, because it's for the same reasons that when I'm on TikTok, sometimes I wonder, should I even do this anymore? Because I don't know if I'm reaching people the way I want to reach them. Sometimes I think that I'm being divisive, but then I'll get messages and support and love and hearts. And people said, no, keep doing what you do. You inspire me. I want to do the same thing. So it's like a tug of war. It's a lot of push pull when deciding on whether you want to continue this type of conversation. You want to know if you're making a difference. And here she is talking about, squelching her political talk a little bit.
Going back to what I said earlier, I have had sort of a fatigue with politics. I was quite bored really with the same arguments. I need a little bit of a challenge. And I like people to argue things honestly. Whatever your opinion is, it's totally fine, but just let's argue honestly and not use all the same rhetoric. And so to be this far into, this is like the third time Trump is running and we're seeing the same thing. Oh, everyone who supports him is a racist, is a sexist. I'm just bored, and I've always, by the way, been very passionate about culture, vaccines. I'm also a mom now. So in the beginning, I was married. I had no children. Mm-hmm. Now my interests have naturally shifted since becoming a parent. And so I think people are seeing more sides of me. Mm-hmm. And in many ways, I'm growing up publicly. Mm-hmm. And it's been refreshing, refreshing to kind of take people on the journey and to show people that I'm not just a Trump supporter, which
And that's it. So, yeah, it is a push pull. So sometimes, like, I like music. I'm a DJ. I happen to like Drake is one of my favorite artists. So I'll do some things. I'll do some politics, and then I'll jump into some Drake lip syncing or say something supportive with Drake because he's been dragged by the whole Kendrick Lamar beef. Some of it was self-induced, I admit. But you got to mix it up. You got to talk about other things other than just Black, white, this, cultural, this, et cetera, et cetera. So it does get kind of tiring, and I get it. But they did get into discussions about the politics and what happened during the election, during the 2024 election. Kamala Harris and Obama, and it was just weird. It got weird. And I was so happy to see that blacks weren't being monolithic about this, and they didn't vote enough in the other direction, but it was enough to be satisfying where a lot of black people did vote for Trump. And I hope more vote Republican in the future, because we can't be sitting in a position anymore where the Democrats just expect our vote as a people. Well, we got the black vote. Why do anything for them? Why keep our promises to them? They're going to vote for us anyway. Y'all can lobby and march and do all the things, whatever you want. You're still going to give them 90%. So if you're going to do that, why should I do anything for you? I can just make you a bunch of empty promises and talk like you and talk slang. You better hire a union member and all that crap that Kamala was doing. We're just to the point that if we start voting for more Republicans, voting for people like Trump, voting for MAGA, then the Dems are going to say, well, we got a problem. She was talking about Kamala, which was interesting.
And it was a weird, it was very strange to watch Kamala run. I will say that, because she really only ran for 100 days, right? Trump had been running throughout four years, basically, kind of upset about the loss in 2020. And she kind of just comes in and it's almost like a coronation, which I think was disrespectful to the left-leaning voter base. Like, it was just, well, he has kind of said he's knighted me and therefore I am the person that you should be electing. And she didn't really work for it, and rather was, I think, quite accusatory. If you don't elect her, it's because you have an issue with women. I don't think Obama's speech to the brothers, the quote unquote brothers, helped him any. He's been gone. He's in Martha's Vineyard, living in a house, God knows how much it costs, not something I could afford. And then he kind of reappears to sort of lecture the brothers about their responsibility. And I just don't think it sat well this time around. Just a different time, a different audience, and people kind of realizing, hey, that's not really enough. Paint me a vision. Like, tell me what you're actually going to do for me. Don't tell me that it's just simply my responsibility to give this woman votes because she's a woman.
I want
for the rest of my life, I will never forget Obama saying, I'm talking to the brothers. I like the way Candace Owens said, talking to the brothers. Yeah, that was a mess right there. That was definitely a mess. Yeah, the whole Kamala thing was just weird. The coronation of Kamala Harris, and then all of these black people in mass saying, yeah, I'm going to vote for her. 4 years ago, when she was running in 2019, she got, 1% of the Democratic vote? But now all of a sudden, she's your candidate? That's a story that's a different topic, but it was just weird. I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. So they got into the conversation about Ukraine, how we've dumped all this money, $300 billion, what, I don't know what the number is, but more money than I can count that we dumped into Ukraine to this Zelensky guy. And then he comes to the White House and he sits with Trump like he's entitled to the money. He wasn't humble at all. I was like, what the hell are you doing? But Candace Owens has never liked Zelensky. I remember when there was all this Ukraine love, and this was a couple of years ago, and Candace was like, nah, I don't buy this guy. And I was like, Candace, what's up with Zelensky? Watch.
I want to transition back to Trump in this regard. We just saw it. The world just saw. It wasn't a press conference or anything like that. I don't call it that. Him with Ukrainian President Zelensky and how he went at him and what have you. Now, Zelensky, if I remember correctly, you didn't speak too highly of him. I want to make sure I'm quoting you accurately. You called him a homosexual actor. Is that true? Did you call him that?
I also just called him the neighborhood crackhead, kind of just goes
Lord.
around asking for money. I've called him a welfare queen, ghetto. This is the thing. The media kind of had me depicted throughout BLM as this person that uses these words to describe Black people. I'm like, no. Let's be very clear. When I'm calling somebody like Zelensky a welfare queen, there's a reason for that. You come here with your hand out, asking, making demands. It's funny because I was having a discussion with my husband about this. And, it's people that tend to need the most that make these sorts of demands, and they're so arrogant. He's taken billions away, unaccounted billions, by the way. So you and I have to get to work because Zelensky wants his borders protected, and we can't have our borders protected because that would be a racist thing to ask for. But he's allowed to demand that you and I get to work because he's spent all the billions. His wife is shopping in Paris. The oligarchs in Ukraine are all buying yachts. And yeah, I have absolutely no respect for him, but I want to say I have not respected that man since day one. This is not something that's new. I just saw him coming.
It's not something that's new, but what about Trump and Vance and how they conducted themselves? You and I might disagree on this particular issue because I don't disagree with what you're saying in terms of, I was on the record saying, listen, you're coming with your hand out, you need money. You might not want to be confrontational. You might want to be a bit more diplomatic, Zelensky, because you're the one that's in need. And Trump wasn't wrong when he said, or you don't have any of the cards. You don't have any of the cards. The flip side to it, however, is that the press conference, you're in the Oval Office. We know this is the White House. This isn't someplace in Ukraine. And he's got broken English, and you got the vice president interrupting him. You got them, I thought, somewhat bullying him to some degree. I just didn't think it was necessary. It was a good look. That's where I'm coming from. Am I wrong in feeling that way?
No, I think you're perfectly, I mean, these are your feelings. They're valid, right? If that's how you felt. For me, I felt it was refreshing. I'm so tired of politics. I know they always button it up for us. They're constantly telling us, oh, this, and saying things that sound good, but don't actually result in good things. And I think it was sort of the frustration of how much he has taken from America to not come with some respect. And I likened it to, even when you go to your granddad's house and it's your birthday, your mom kind of makes you wear something special. You know, he's going to give you a card and slip some cash in there, $100. Granddad's always good for that. And you just come with some decorum and some respect. This dude has been wearing military fatigues for like 5 years now. Okay. Put on a suit. As soon as he gets out of the car, Trump's like, well, he's dressed up. This should let you know, this should signal to the public that what he's doing is an act. Why? Give me a scenario, a reason why he can't put on a suit. Even if you're in the midst of a war, why can't you put on a suit when you're coming to ask for money? Well, because he wants people to see him as a guy that's downtrodden in the trenches. And he's not that. This guy has been on the cover of Vanity Fair. He's been on the cover of Vogue. He's been on the cover of Forbes. He's doing photo shoots. He did a 3-hour podcast with Lex Friedman. He asked and was declined a spot to go to the Oscars a couple of years ago. And so this is making a mockery. It's just making him put on a suit.
See, this is why people got to be careful about messing with you, because I was getting ready to disagree with you until you threw out those last. I didn't know he tried to go to the Oscars. I didn't know he tried to be on the cover of Vogue. I didn't know that stuff, Candace. I honestly didn't know. Okay, that.
Yeah, Stephen, you, man, this is what I'm talking about. This is why more liberal, particularly Black liberal shows need to have Candace Owens on her show, because she's going to displace them. They're going to be homeless without a party, because this is what they won't do. They won't just stop believing what they believe and then move into a conservative party. They're going to stop what they believe in and just disappear. They're going to be in limbo. Stephen A. has slowly been making this transformation, and people are like, where is he going? Where is he going with this? What was that statement he said he just made? I don't know where he's going with this. And finally, now he's like, yeah. So she just cooked Stephen A.'s brain. Zelensky, she was talking about what a fraud and what a fake he is. I didn't even like the way he puts 2 Y's on the end of his name. It's Zelensky. I don't need an extra Y. I want to say Zelensky. I don't know. I just think he's a fraud. But then, they got into, they kind of transitioned from talking about Zelensky to talking about Putin. Now, I never thought about this. One of my very good friends, all up in my inbox, telling me how it's so un-American to support Putin. And he's a lot more intellectual than I am about world politics. So I don't always come back at him correctly. But I wish I had Candace in my pocket to go, "Ha, look, 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 look," because she explained our relationship with Putin perfectly. She explained Donald Trump's relationship with Putin, and she also explained where America should be with Putin. Listen to this. This is masterclass.
So any sympathy for the fact that Russia did attack his nation? I mean, that there is some sympathy for that, right? We see the rubble. We see the catastrophe that is Ukraine. We see Putin bombing them, for crying out loud. We've seen that happen, right?
Yeah, so the thing for me is, and the reason why I say that I've had this opinion since the very beginning, is I don't rely on politicians. I think all politicians lie. And so I was reading the transcripts leading up to this moment of Putin's speeches and Biden's speeches and trying to discern what the truth was. And Putin.
I love it. In order to get her truth, she went back and read transcripts of speeches from Putin, comparing it with transcripts from Biden, and say, "Oh, wait a minute, Putin has a point here." I hope no one's watching this saying that, "Oh, Chris, so what are you pro Putin now?" That's not the point. The point is, America, mainstream media, has not given me an opportunity to see Putin's point of view. And Candace went and found that.
Was saying, you guys gave us assurances that NATO was not going to expand 1 inch eastward into our territory. Essentially, NATO is a military. We were putting a military on his border, despite in 1989, when the Berlin Wall came down, as a condition, an agreement for them to agree to take down the Berlin Wall. We promised, and you can go look at this in NSA declassified documents. James Baker was the Secretary of State at that time.
Yes, he was.
We promised them that we would never move NATO eastward. So you have to imagine the memory that they have, and they're going, "Why are you now doing that?" Now all of a sudden we're saying that Ukraine is going to join NATO, and he's saying this is unacceptable. America can't keep changing its mind. And so when I was able to validate what he said and to read the speeches, you cannot walk away from that without an understanding that we are the aggressors. Everything that we say Russia is doing, recreating the Soviet Union, we are doing that. What is the European Union? What is NATO? And we've been getting away from it for too long under this guise of quote unquote spreading democracy. So I fundamentally disagreed with what I saw as Western propaganda trying to paint Putin as a monster for holding us to our promises and not telling the public that. He just randomly woke up one day and just said, I want to do hood rat stuff with my friends. And he went into Ukraine. That's a fairy tale. That's not what happened. And not beyond that, like you saw when he sat down with Tucker Carlson, he asked to join NATO himself. Why are we not having a productive relationship with Russia? I call that Cold War hangover. People that grew up under their desks afraid of a nuclear bomb can never see Russia outside of being villainous. And quite frankly, I think Zelensky He's suspended elections. He's locked down churches. He's locked up nuns. I'm a Christian. I don't like this guy at all.
Wow. If your mind is not blown after that, you don't have a heart. I need to send that to my guy who always beats me up on Facebook Messenger, telling me how it's un-American to support Putin. It's not even Putin support. What it is it's truth. So what kind of conversations do you think Trump and Putin have on the phone? It's conversations like that. "Hey, Donald, I respect you very much, but this is what's been going on for the last 20 years. And it's not fair, Donald. What are you going to do about it?" That's what's, you like my accent? That is the conversations that Donald and Vladimir is having. They're not having this MSNBC, CNN, ABC, CBS conversation. They're having this conversation about what are you going to do about it, Donald? I am willing to stop bombing Ukraine, but you have to keep NATO out of my country. You have to keep NATO out of my territory. God, I probably sound horrible with my accent, but you get it. Vladimir has cause. So, all right, before we get out of here, we're going to talk about the Me Too movement and what's been going on since 2020 or whatever it started. I don't know. I'm going to watch the Candace Owens series on Harvey Weinstein just because I wanted to know how this Me Too movement got out of control. I encourage you to watch it too. And if you have some extra money to toss, cancel one of your channels on your, the way channels are now. You can buy Paramount, buy Peacock, buy all these. Cancel one of those and sign up for Club Candace because she has some content on her website that's very powerful and needs to be heard. And she doesn't put it on YouTube. It's for members only. Club Candace. Pretty awesome. She also talks about some books that, suggested reading that you probably should check out. Before we're going to talk, she's going to talk about the whole Harvey Weinstein investigation, how she actually called him in prison and had a conversation. Here is Candace about Harvey Weinstein, and then we'll get out of here.
You recently interviewed former Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein from prison. Why did you want to talk to him, and what was the most surprising thing you got from it?
I have been a hater of the Me Too movement since day one. Even before I had sons, and now I have 3, I knew that we need due process, and watching men lose their entire lives on the basis of an allegation. I mean, I could have literally ruined your life, Stephen. I could have been like, he touched my hand at that Knicks game, and I remember this and cry. You've been done, canceled, over, forever. And that's wrong, okay? Because women lie. Men lie, women lie, facts don't lie, and we need due process. And so the Harvey Weinstein case, someone brought it to me and said, take a look at it. And I actually thought he was guilty when I first got on the phone with him in prison. And we're totally on different sides of the political spectrum. But a friend had reached out and said, I think you'll be the only person that will actually take a look at this and tell the truth. And I've just always been committed to telling the truth. And it is my belief, and I think that once I show the public the facts of this case, that Harvey Weinstein was wrongfully convicted, and his case just got overturned in New York, as it should have, and now it's being sent back down in the appellate courts. So it's got to be retried. And I just want we got to go back to the beginning. We got to put this genie back into the bottle and back into the Me Too bottle, and it all begins with Harvey Weinstein. And
now I want to be clear. She's not saying that Harvey Weinstein is a good guy by any measure. I've listened to her more in Club Candace. She's not saying he's a good guy. She's saying he's a creep. But he's not a creep that belongs in jail. That this case was built up around him during the Me Too movement, and he's sitting in jail. You just got to watch it. If you didn't watch a series on Brigitte Macron, the president of France, she deep dives. It's no joke. So other than that, I think that's about it. I didn't want to, and I'm sorry, Stephen A. Smith, I shared the majority of your interview, but I just wanted to talk about it as I watched it and recap it. So I'm going to get a copyright on this. It doesn't really matter. I'm not monetized anyway. But anyway, hey, you guys out there. By the way, this show was supposed to be about Donald Trump's congressional address. And so many people talked about it that I chose that I'm not going to do that this week. I may do it next week, but we all know that the Dems, we know what they did. They didn't clap for the boy with cancer. They didn't clap for the Border Patrol guy who was shooting at the cartel. They didn't shoot for Laken Riley's mom. They just were and the guy, Al Green from Texas was, shouting out while Trump was trying to talk. The Sergeant Master at Arms had to have him removed from the congressional, gallery. They were just bad. So I was going to talk about that today. I chose not to because it's all over the news and there's nothing I can add. So other than that, you guys be good. Candace Owens, if you're not following her on YouTube, please follow her. If you can afford to spend a couple dollars every month, please support her on the Club Candace on CandaceOwens.com. And I'll let you know when she comes back on Stephen A. Smith show. But I need more guys like, Club Shay Shay or which is Shannon Sharp's podcast to have her on here. Roland Martin, get her on there, get her on your show. Debate her. She's going to cook you anyway. And I think that's why you guys are avoiding her, because you don't want to go toe to toe with Candace Owens. She will cook you. You'll be barbecue chicken, as Shaq says. Talk to you guys later. See you another. Oh, don't forget, please like, subscribe, support the channel. Let everybody know that Chris Wright is trying to build a following, create more people with conservative thought, destroy the monolith that is the Black community. I would love if you guys do that. I'll talk to you guys on the other side. Peace out. Have a good one.